Yo, do you like F1 sprint races? Well, I have some good news for you. Formula One is considering adding more sprint races to the 2027 season. That's right, folks. We're going to see an increase possibly from 6 to 12. That's on the cards. It feels like at times people are trying to deliberately make the sport bad. This move has been largely driven by the man in charge of F1, Stefano Domenicali, who has been a long term advocate of extra sprint races. He wants to get rid of those damn practice sessions. Of course, the main reason Domenicali is loving these sprint races is money. The move is to increase the revenue in the sport. More people tune in to sprint races and qualifying, which means greater broadcasting deals and better views on social media, as opposed to the watching of practice sessions. The promoters also like the sprint model because, of course, it encourages higher attendance on Friday and Saturday. Domenicali and F1 seemingly are basing their decision, this is quote, based on the demand for sprint from fans and promoters. Not sure about the fans bit. Maybe the fans were chosen at random, or maybe these so-called fans happen to be members of the FIA. Because here in the real world, the sprint format hasn't really been popular with fans. Now you might be asking, what's the harm of this format? Having an extra race and an extra qualifying session is better than having those boring practice sessions. Now those races are often pretty dull. Tire strategy doesn't exist because they're usually all the same, and there's generally a lack of overtaking because of that. But it often dilutes the racing in general and ruins some surprises that we have for Sunday and the Saturday qualifying because we know where the teams are going to stack up in generally. Now, one area where F1 is pinning their hopes on making these sprint races work is with the new regulations. They should allow the cars to follow closer, and I would say we'd almost certainly see increasing overtakes on the sprint races this year. First one's in China. If they are more exciting, this might not be a good thing because what's going to happen? F1 is going to jump to increase these sprint races to 12. And really, it does seem that F1 clearly wants to move to eventually having every single weekend having a sprint race. I mean, Domenicali has previously said he is thinking of getting rid of all practice sessions. MotoGP, which is also owned by Liberty Media, has already done this, having a sprint race every weekend. But motorcycle racing is very different to Formula One, and there is much more overtaking during races, which means the sprint format works there a lot better. So F1 won't go to having every race immediately, like a straight kick to the face. Instead, they'll painfully drip feed us this format that we don't want as we slowly die of boredom. The increase of sprint races does seem pretty inevitable. I mean, we're sticking at 6 no matter how bad the format was last year. So if it's like any way better, like just above mediocre, they're going to increase it. And if it doesn't happen in 2027, it will happen eventually.